All right, so you want to know more about West Red Lake Gold Mines, Ltd?
Yeah.
Huh. Specifically, their Madsen Gold Mine.
Yeah.
That's about ready to get going again.
Yeah.
And we're talking beyond just the headlines here. We're digging into the nitty-gritty that investors might be missing. Like, what about the financials,
Right.
the timeline, and what this company could really look like a year from now if everything goes according to plan? We've got company reports, press releases, expert analysis, and even a look at what's happening with gold in general so we can really get the full picture.
Sounds good.
What makes West Red Lake so interesting?
Well, for one, they're not just some risky startup, the Madsen Mine. It's right in the middle of Canada's Red Lake Gold District. It's got a history.
Ah, okay.
It's produced gold before, so we're not dealing with all the unknowns of a brand new discovery.
Right.
They've been setting things up, investing capital, and they're right on the edge of restarting everything. In fact, they're already taking out bulk samples.
Okay.
The mill's going to be running in March 2025, and they're planning to start producing gold in Q2 of the same year.
Yeah, and they're not just talking about it. They're actually doing it.
Exactly.
Speaking of doing it, their recent pre-feasibility study, the PFS,
Right.
it's full of data suggesting this could be a real moneymaker. What jumps out at you from that PFS?
Well, the numbers, they paint a pretty compelling picture.
Yeah.
The PFS projects a post-tax net present value of $315 million, and that's based on a gold price of $2,200 an ounce.
Okay.
And remember, this isn't based on some, imaginary model. They've been running things underground for over a year now. They even did a test run with the mill back in 2022.
Oh, wow.
So these cost estimates, they're based on real-world experience.
So they've got experience. The PFS is based on actual costs. But for someone who's not a mining expert, what do those numbers actually mean? Break it down for us a little.
Okay, so they're projecting an average annual production of 67,600 ounces of gold, and that's over the mine's 6-year lifespan.
6-year lifespan.
So that translates to an average free cash flow of almost $70 million every year.
Wow.
And here's the big one. They're all-in sustaining cost. That's the total cost to get an ounce of gold out of the ground and into the market. It's projected to be US $1,681.
Hold on. So it costs them $1,681 per ounce, and gold is selling for way over $2,000 an ounce.
Yep.
That sounds like a pretty good margin.
It is. It's a great margin. That's exactly why investors are getting excited about this opportunity. But it gets even better. Remember that impressive post-tax NPV of $315 million?
Yeah.
That doesn't even include their upper 8 zone.
All right, let's talk about this upper 8 zone. It sounds like a hidden level in a video game. What's the big deal with it?
Well, recent drilling results from that zone, they've hit high-grade gold.
High grade.
Yeah. We're talking 87,700 ounces at a grade of 18 grams per ton.
Okay.
To put that in perspective, a lot of operating mines would be happy with half that grade.
Wow, so this zone could be a big deal for them.
It could be huge. And remember, this wasn't even part of the PFS.
Oh, wow.
So it's pure upside potential. What's even more exciting is that this zone, it keeps going. It's open along its plunge. So imagine like a vein of gold dipping down into the earth. They've only explored a part of it, and there's a real chance of finding even more gold as they drill deeper.
So just to be clear, they're about to restart a mine with a solid history.
Yeah.
Their financials look promising. And they have this high-grade zone that's like a hidden treasure chest. But mining can be risky, right? What are some things that could go wrong?
Yeah, you're right. Mining is always risky, but West Red Lake is doing things to manage those risks. One of the biggest concerns is always how consistent the gold grade is. You might find high-grade gold when you're drilling,
Okay.
but if that doesn't stay consistent when you start mining, it can really mess up your plans.
Yeah, that makes sense.
West Red Lake has tackled this head-on with a super detailed drilling program.
Okay, so they're drilling a lot, but is it the right kind of drilling?
Absolutely. They've drilled on a 6-meter spacing, which is really tight. It's like taking a high-resolution picture of what's underground.
Wow, okay.
This gives them a lot of confidence in their geological model. It means they really understand where the gold is and how it's spread out.
So they're not just drilling randomly. They're systematically mapping out the deposit to reduce uncertainty.
Exactly, and they're not stopping there. They're being really strategic about how they plan the mine. They're focusing on the resources they're most confident about.
Okay.
The areas where they have the most data and the least uncertainty. This is crucial. They're not chasing every single ounce of gold.
All right.
They're going after the ounces that are most likely to make money.
That makes a lot of sense. So they're being careful to make sure they're mining the best areas first. But even with all the planning, things can still go wrong, right?
Of course. There are always unexpected challenges in mining, but West Red Lake has a secret weapon. Their leadership team. They've put together a group of industry veterans,
Okay.
people who've seen and done it all.
All right, let's talk about this dream team. Who are the key players and what makes them so special?
Well, their president and CEO, Anthony McCooch, he's got an incredible track record. He led Kirkland Lake Gold and turned it from a small company into a major player. He increased their annual gold production by more than 4 times.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah.
So he knows how to build and run successful gold mines. What about the rest of the team?
They've got Duncan Middlemiss as a director. He was the CEO of Wesdom Gold Mines, a company known for producing high-grade gold.
Oh, wow.
They also have Frank Giustra as an advisor. He's a well-known mining financier and philanthropist. This isn't a team of rookies. They're experienced professionals with a ton of knowledge and expertise.
Yeah, that sounds like a pretty solid team.
Yep.
Okay, I'm starting to see why you're so excited about this opportunity. They've got a proven mine, a strong financial plan, a high-grade exploration target, and a top-notch management team. But let's step back for a second and look at the bigger picture. Why is gold a good investment in the first place? And why should we care about a company like West Red Lake?
That's a great question. Gold has been a safe haven asset for centuries. You know, when things are uncertain, people turn to gold because it's seen as a store of value.
Yeah.
It's a real tangible asset that can't be printed or inflated away like paper money.
Right, it's like the ultimate insurance policy.
Exactly.
But gold isn't just a thing of the past, right?
No, not at all. Gold is still super relevant today. It's essential for all sorts of modern technology, electronics, medicine, you name it.
Right.
And as the world becomes more digital and interconnected, the demand for gold is only going to go up.
And at the same time, the supply of gold is actually decreasing.
That's right.
A lot of the world's major gold mines are getting old, and new discoveries are becoming harder to find.
Yep.
That combination of rising demand and falling supply, it creates a really good situation for gold investors.
It does. And here's where things get really interesting. Even though the fundamentals for gold are so positive, gold mining stocks have historically been undervalued compared to the price of gold.
So you're saying there's a gap between the value of gold and the value of the companies that produce it.
Exactly. And that gap, it represents a potential opportunity for investors who are willing to do their research and identify the companies that are best positioned to benefit from the rising gold market.
And that brings us back to West Red Lake. It sounds like they could be one of those companies. They're about to start production at a high-grade mine, and they have a team of experienced leaders who know how to create value for shareholders.
Right.
But I still have one big question. What does this all mean for investors? If everything goes according to plan, what will West Red Lake look like a year from now?
That's the million-dollar question. And it's one we'll definitely explore in more detail, but let me give you a sneak peek. If West Red Lake pulls this off, they could be a completely different company a year from now.
Okay, you've definitely got my attention. We'll be back in a moment to dig deeper into that potential transformation and explore why investors might be underestimating West Red Lake's future.
Sounds good. So let's imagine it's a year from now.
Okay?
The Madsen Mine. It's up and running, making money. What does West Red Lake look like?
That's what I want to know.
Yeah.
Are we talking about a totally different company than what we see now?
It's possible. You see, right now, they're considered a developer.
Okay.
They're not actually producing gold, which means no revenue. And that can make it hard for the market to put a real value on them. But once that gold starts flowing from Madsen, everything changes.
So they go from developer to producer, and that's when things get interesting.
Exactly. They've got that steady production from Madsen, bringing in cash. Then you add in the upper 8 zone.
Right.
If they keep hitting those high grades with the drilling, their resources could really take off.
Okay.
We could be looking at double or even triple their gold ounces.
So instead of a small developer, they're suddenly a mid-tier gold producer sitting on a much bigger, higher-grade resource base.
Yeah.
That's got to get investors' attention, right?
Absolutely. In the mining world, growth is everything. And that kind of change, driven by production and resource expansion, that's what can really make a stock price go up.
Now, we've talked a lot about the Madsen Mine in the upper 8 zone, but they also have that Rowan Mine project. What's the deal with that? Should investors be thinking about that too when they're looking at West Red Lake?
Yeah, the Rowan Mine, it's definitely something to watch. It's another past-producing mine. About 20 kilometers from Madsen, it's got a historical resource estimate of over 1.1 million ounces of gold.
Wow. So not just some small side project. This is something that could really add value down the line.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right now, their focus is on getting Madsen back up and running.
Right.
But once that's going smoothly, they can turn their attention to Rowan and unlock its potential.
So we've got Madsen, the upper 8 zone, and now Rowan Sounds like they have a lot going on.
Huh.
Can they really handle all of this? What about their management team? Are they up to the challenge?
That's where their experience comes in.
Yeah.
We talked about Anthony McCooch's success at Kirkland Lake Gold.
Right.
But it's not just him. They've got Duncan Middlemiss, who led Wisdom Gold Mines,
Yeah.
a company known for being great at high-grade gold production.
Yeah.
And don't forget Frank Giustra.
Right, the mining finance legend.
Exactly. Acting as an advisor. This is a team that knows how to build and run successful mines.
Okay, but it's one thing to have experience. It's another to actually use it well. Are there any specific examples of how West Red Lake is doing things differently? Setting themselves apart?
Their approach to mine planning is really impressive. They use a 12-month stope book to guide their operations.
A stope book.
Yeah, think of it like a restaurant planning their menu a year in advance.
Okay.
They know exactly what they'll be making, what ingredients they need, and when everything needs to be ready.
So instead of just winging it,
Yeah.
they've got a detailed plan to make sure things run smoothly and efficiently.
Exactly. This minimizes downtime, they can use their resources better, and it reduces the chance of expensive surprises. It's a sign of good management and a commitment to making money for their shareholders.
Okay, so they're planning ahead and being strategic. But what about the bigger picture? The whole macro environment for gold. We know it's a safe haven asset, but is it still a good investment now?
Gold has been doing really well over the past few years, and the reasons for that are still there.
Okay.
We've got geopolitical uncertainty, inflation that just won't quit,
Yeah.
and a growing lack of trust in regular currencies.
Right.
All of this points to gold continuing to be strong.
So it's a good time for gold. And West Red Lake is in a good position to take advantage of that.
Exactly. They've got the right project at the right time, with the right team leading the way.
But let's be realistic. Mining always has risks. What are some things that could potentially derail this whole West Red Lake success story?
You're right. There are always risks. One thing that worries mining companies is permitting. If you can't get the approvals you need, your project can be delayed forever.
Yeah.
Luckily, the Madsen Mine already has all its permits, so that's not a problem.
Okay, permits are checked off the list. What about other challenges?
Groundwater can be a big issue. Too much water in a mine is a real pain.
I can imagine.
But Madsen has a long history. They know the water conditions well, plus they've invested in better dewatering systems.
So they've done their research and are prepared for the water issue.
No,
What about debt? High debt can be a real problem for mining companies.
it can, especially with interest rates going up. But West Red Lake has been smart about their financing. They've already put over $350 million into Madsen. So what they need now is relatively small. They just secured a $68 million financing package. And a good chunk of that was equity, not debt.
Oh, so they're not taking on a ton of debt.
No, their balance sheet is looking good.
So we've covered permits, water, and debt. What about the actual mining operation? Are there any risks specific to the Madsen mine that we need to know about?
Well, you never know what you're going to find underground until you start digging.
Right.
Ground conditions can be unpredictable. But again, Madsen's history helps them here. They understand the geology and the potential problems. Plus, they're using all that detailed drilling data to make their plan and avoid surprises.
So they're not just blasting away and hoping for the best?
Nope. They're being very careful and methodical.
We've covered a lot here.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about their financials, their management team, their mine plan, the risks, the gold market, anything we've missed.
We haven't really talked about their exploration at the Fork deposit.
Oh.
It's only 4 kilometers from Madsen. They see it as a high-grade, underground operation that could send ore to the Madsen mill. It's another potential way for the company to grow.
Wow. So even beyond Madsen Rowan and the Upper 8 Zone, they've got even more going on.
They do.
But before we completely overwhelm our listeners with all this info, I want to go back to that question we asked before. If everything goes according to plan, what does West Red Lake look like a year from now?
Okay, picture this, the Madsen Mine. It's beating production targets, making a lot of cash.
Okay.
Drilling at the Upper 8 Zone keeps hitting high-grade gold, expanding the resource and making the mine last even longer. They've started doing some work at the Rowan mine, and the market is finally realizing how much their assets are worth.
So they're firing on all cylinders.
Exactly, and that's what gets investors excited. A company that's doing what they said they would do,
Right.
exceeding expectations and ready for more growth.
Okay, you made a strong case.
Oh,
But I got to ask, if this opportunity is so good, why isn't everyone jumping on board? Why is West Red Lake still kind of under the radar?
that's the big question, and it might be the biggest thing investors are misunderstanding about this company. We'll talk about that next.
You've got me thinking, why isn't everyone talking about this opportunity? Is the market missing something? What don't investors get about West Red Lake?
That is the question, isn't it? I think some of it is just psychology. Investors, they like to chase what's hot and new. They love those big, well-known producers.
Right.
But that means they sometimes miss companies like West Red Lake, the ones that are about to make a big jump.
It's just out of sight, out of mind.
Exactly. West Red Lake hasn't been producing gold, so they haven't been in the headlines. But that's going to change. Once Madsen restarts, the cash starts coming in. And those quarterly reports come out, people will notice.
It's like they're a hidden gem, just waiting to be discovered.
Right. And in the case of West Red Lake, I think their story is pretty powerful. You've got a company ready to transform itself with a clear plan to become a major gold producer. They've got a management team with a history of success, and they're operating in a good market for gold.
We talked about this before, but I'm curious about their commitment to the community and social responsibility. That's important to investors these days.
It is. People want to invest in companies that do things the right way, companies that are making a positive impact. And it seems like West Red Lake is doing that. They've really focused on building good relationships with the local communities and indigenous groups around Red Lake.
Okay, but what are they actually doing?
They've been proactive about talking with community leaders, holding public meetings, addressing concerns. They've made local hiring a priority, which is a huge boost for the economy there. And they're committed to protecting the environment and sustainable mining.
So they're not just taking the gold. They're investing in the communities where they work.
Exactly. And that's important. Investors are paying more attention to ESG factors, environmental, social, and governance when they're making decisions. And companies that are doing well in those areas are going to be rewarded.
It sounds like West Red Lake is taking ESG seriously. But let's be real. Most investors care about one thing: returns. Can West Red Lake deliver?
I think they can. And here's why. They're not over-leveraged.
Okay.
They've been smart about their financing, minimizing debt, and using equity to fuel their growth.
So they're not putting all their eggs in one basket.
Right. They have a range of assets. The Upper 8 Zone, the WRLGF Mine,
Right.
all with a lot of potential. They're also exploring the Fork deposit.
So even if something unexpected happens, gold prices drop, costs go up, they have options to create value.
That's exactly it. They're not a one-hit wonder. They have choices. And that's what smart investors look for.
Okay, we've covered a lot. We've talked financials, the timeline, risks, the potential upside.
We've even touched on their community engagement and ESG principles.
We've looked at this opportunity from all sides. Is there anything else investors should think about as they're looking at West Red Lake? Any final thoughts?
Remember, investing is about looking forward, anticipating what's next. Don't just focus on what West Red Lake is today. Think about what they could be. Imagine those catalysts that could really boost their share price. Continued success at Madsen. Exciting drill results from the Upper 8 Zone progress at the WRLGF Mine.
Those are all good points. And in the end, the best investors do their own research, ask the tough questions, think for themselves.
Exactly. Don't just take our word for it. Look at the data. Check out their website. Make up your own mind.
Well said. We hope this deep dive has given you a good understanding of the West Red Lake gold opportunity. Now it's your turn to keep digging. You might just find something truly valuable.